Whatever you're experiencing is illusory. In all problems, all seeking, suffering, all problems are for an illusion. In radical non-duality, there is one truth, that is the Absolute, God. Everything else is illusion. The timeless, formless beingness, as close as we can get to the Absolute. It's called the I Am, or beingness, or suchness. Beingness is infinite. It's all space and time. But it's not personal. I've experienced that, and I know that. That's the beingness. That's the foundation of where we are, is this timeless, formless being that is the ground of the mind and body. It's the foundation of the mind and body. And then from that beingness, my mind activated and said, oh, this is beingness. But still there was no Stephen, no space and time. But there was a mind that recognized beingness. Relative to personal identity. So this beingness was impersonal, being. It's timeless and spaceless, timeless and formless. Therefore it's all space and time. It's infinite. And then the mind thinks the thought I or me or I am, but still there's no personal beingness. Stephen's not born yet. There's no body, no personal identity. There's I am, beingness. And then when the mind continues, then memory comes back into consciousness, a memory of a previous time in a previous place. And then I am goes from I am beingness to I am Stephen, a body in Arlington in October of 2010. So then space and time comes in with the thought. So this is the birth of Stephen. It's the birth of individual identity, is with thought. But fundamentally, what I am, what I was prior to the mind, prior to thoughts arising, I was the infinite, eternal beingness, or timeless, formless beingness. So I know before I am, beingness is. And there must be something aware of that beingness to recognize beingness. What's aware of beingness? So there's absolute awareness which has no object of awareness. It's pure awareness, which is the Absolute, which is God, which is infinite, eternal, universal life, that I am. And then the first experience is beingness. That's God, the Absolute, realizing that it exists. I am. I am. And then as we go more into thought, I am Stephen, which is memory. I am Stephen, because I remember that was the name that was given to me. And then all of my memories flood into consciousness and fill the infinite with the relative story and experience of being Stephen. So this is where God becomes beingness, and then beingness becomes Stephen. And Stephen is in space and time. He's a body and a mind in space and time. So I realized without the memory, without the name and the memory, without the name Stephen and the memory of my past life, my parents, teachers, friends, culture, society, and my location in space and time, there's no Stephen. So Stephen is a product of memory, a product of thought, a product of mind. He has relative existence. But I knew myself prior to Stephen. I knew myself as I am, as beingness. And I must have been there prior to beingness. By beingness I mean this timeless, formless. It's comparable to a vibration of energy and light. But it's not an energy and light. But I don't know what else to call it. It's not in space and time. And it's not personal. Therefore, it's experienced as infinite and eternal because it's timeless and formless. And something must have been there prior to the recognition of beingness. Something must have been there prior to the recognition of this timeless and formless infinite beingness. Because what's aware of that beingness? So I know I must be prior to beingness. What I am cannot be experienced. It cannot be known directly. It can only be known relative to beingness. So the core of what we are is the absolute awareness, is the foundation of what we are, the essence of what we are, and then from that absolute awareness rises the beingness, and then I am beingness, and then I am Stephen. And once memory floods in, then God and beingness and I am take on the identity of Stephen. I am Stephen. So God becomes Stephen. Stephen is not God. God becomes Stephen in the form of thought. Stephen was born in thought. This is why we can say, you were never born. Because the thought doesn't give birth. It has no independent existence. Only God is alive. Only beingness is alive. And only I am is alive. Not Stephen. That's a memory. So right now, if I have no memory, if I have no name, Stephen, and no memory, who am I? Do I die? Does Stephen die? Stephen was never alive. So Stephen was never born, Stephen never dies. He's a thought. Only thoughts are born and die. So, am I Stephen? Who am I? I am Stephen, then I was born and I die. But if I am beingness, or I am absolute awareness or God prior to beingness, when was I born? Is it possible to die? It's not possible to die. Because I must be there as the absolute awareness to recognize my death. How would I know I died if I wasn't there to witness my own death? And if I'm there to witness my own death, Clearly, I didn't die. Only what was born in thought can die. And thought was never alive. God is alive, expressing itself as timeless, formless beingness. And then when the mind thinks I am, it grows into I am Stephen. It's experienced as if Stephen has his own separate existence apart from God and apart from beingness, which clearly is not the case. Because I was there to witness the birth of Stephen, and I will be there to witness the death of Stephen. I am there every night when Stephen dies, and I am there every morning when Stephen reincarnates. But he never died, he was never born, he never reincarnated. It was a thought. It's when God identifies as beingness and then identifies as I am Stephen and his memories. Take away your memory, I mean everything, then there's no time and there's no space without thought, without memory. There's pure beingness, that I am. There's only God. So any sense of individual identity, as long as I am Stephen, it doesn't matter if I have a body or a spiritual form, a physical form or a spiritual form. It doesn't matter. Because neither one is the truth of who I am. Because the essence of what I am is God and beingness. I am beingness. I am God's beingness. So whether there's a body here that remembers itself and identifies itself with memory, then I am Stephen, this mind and body, or if I'm out of the body, I am Stephen, the mind and spirit. Neither one is true. Neither one is the essence of what I am. They are both born in thought. The physical body and the spiritual body,
they come and go. Yeah.
They're both born in thought. Beingness and God is the truth of both experiences. The experience of being a body, a mind and body, and the experience of being a mind and spirit. It's both an experience of separation from beingness and a separation from God. So neither is true. Any experience of separation arises in thought. And I must be there to witness the thought. Because the thought cannot witness me. The body cannot witness me. I witness the body. And out of the body, the spirit cannot witness me. I witness the spirit.
I being
awareness
itself. Yeah.
Or beingness, consciousness. So any experience of separation, whether it's in the body or out of the body, is not the truth of what I am. The form doesn't matter. Spiritual form, physical form, what difference does it make? There's still separation from God. Now, you'll just have new problems. Like Einstein would do these thought experiments. So you say, okay, the body dies, Stephen as a spirit lives. So the body's gone, Stephen as a spirit rises up into the spirit world and goes and meets the Buddha, goes and meets Jesus, goes and meets Krishna. And now what? Do we go spirit bowling? What do we do? You could go on and on with this thought experiment, and who cares? So I'm not interested in any experience of being a separate body or a separate spirit. The truth of what I am is beingness and oneness with God. And oneness with God cannot be experienced. It's neither in form or spirit. It cannot be experienced. The closest we can get to God would be beingness, and then the closest we can get in the mind would be I am beingness, or this pure consciousness, this sense of being. Now, as soon as thought arises, I am Stephen, either I am Stephen as a physical body or as a spiritual body, I'm still separate from God. There's just a different set of problems. Same shit, different pot. That's a phrase. I really like that one. You know, any sense of separation from the Absolute is not the truth of who I am. So was God ever born? Was beingness ever born? And who was there to witness the birth? And if you were there to witness the birth, clearly you were not born. And if you're there to witness the death, clearly you did not die. How could you witness your own death? So there's no birth, no death for the reality of what you are. Now if you say, I am Stephen or I am Herb, and you believe and you take on that identity as a separate mind and body, then you can be born and you can die, but only in thought. And that holds true whether you're a spiritual form or a physical form, because as a spiritual form, when were you born? And were you there to witness the birth of the spiritual form? When the body dies and you rise out of the body, you can call that a birth of your spiritual form, but you were there to witness it. So what you are was not born. So beingness, and then God must be the essence of what we are. So whatever is born and dies is not the truth of what we are. It's born in thought. Even as a spirit, you must be born, live, and die only in thought. Because as a separate spirit, in order to maintain your separate existence as Herb, a spirit, there must be an underlying belief and knowledge, I am Herb, a separate spirit, which is thought, which is mind. When that thought is not there, back to beingness, and then prior to beingness is God. This is the truth of what we are, God, beingness. So the spirit was never born, the body was never born, not in terms of the fundamental truth of what we are, only in thought. You'll know beingness by its absence of time and place. It's timeless, placeless, formless. And it's only known relative to the other experience of being in time and space. It's known relative to being Stephen or Herb in time and place.
The experiences I've had feel timeless and formless. I mean, that's the kind of relief. It feels timeless and formless. It's a high.
Yes, now is Herb gone during that timeless?
Herb as I know him is gone. There's no, I watch him fade out.
And you sort of become the timeless and formless.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that timeless and formless you did not become. You became Herb, and then Herb died, and you went back to timeless, formless.
Yes, totally clear. That's clear.
So that's what's referred to as beingness, the timeless and formless.
Okay.
And then now we also can go deeper than that because we know what is aware of the beingness.
Right.
What is aware of the fact that this is timeless and formless. This is not in time, and this is not in form. There's something aware of that.
Right, exactly.
That's the absolute awareness. That's the ground of being that we are. Now, when was that awareness, the ground of being, the awareness that's aware of the timeless, formless beingness, when was that born? It can never be born.
Yeah.
Because if it was born, what was there to witness its birth? So whatever is there to witness the birth was there prior. What we are, the essence of what we are, we can call it the absolute, infinite, eternal, universal, or call it God, is what I am.
Okay.
And that's all I am. See, this is the radical message of absolute non-duality. That I am that which is prior to beingness. And that's the only truth in radical non-duality. There is one truth, that is the absolute, God. Everything else is illusion. The timeless, formless beingness, as close as we can get to the absolute. It's called the I am, or beingness, or suchness. Now we know there must be something prior to that that's aware of that beingness. And that is the absolute. That's the ground of being. This is the essence of what I am. This is the only truth. And what makes the message radical is that absolute awareness that's aware of beingness is the only truth. All other experience is illusory. Now, without the memory, I know that without the memory of Stephen, there's no Stephen. There's no birth, no death. So Stephen is a memory. He's an image, a thought. So what difference does it make if a thought is born and a thought dies? God doesn't die. God was never born. This is why what I am, what we are, was never born. The fundamental truth of what we are was never born. It can never die. It cannot die, because if it dies, you will be there to witness it. Otherwise, you would never know it died. So if you're there to witness the death, you cannot die. This is the radical message, is whatever you're experiencing is illusory. And all problems, all seeking, suffering, all problems are for an illusion.
Because all problems are attached to that identity.
Yes, you can only have a problem for me. Something has to be separate. God, the Absolute, cannot have a problem. Beingness cannot have a problem, because there's no time and space. There's no independent existence. There's beingness. God cannot have a problem, the Absolute awareness. Beingness cannot have a problem, because there's no time and space, no independent existence. Problems are only for me, for Stephen, who is a thought. Stephen was born in thought. This is why we can say, you were never born. Because the thought doesn't give birth. Only God is alive. Only beingness is alive. And only I am is alive. The fundamental truth of what we are was never born. It can never die.